Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about astrology and the second house. Now, first off, is as far as what the second house rules in astrology, it's connected with values, income generated, money, monetary matters in general, financial matters, resources, possessions, buying and selling, self-worth, self-esteem. It could be latent talents or abilities that one may actually have. And when you look at these, second house, I mean, the first thing to look at the sign that is on the cusp of the house, because that will give an indication how the way you go about the matters on that second house cusp. It might be matters connected with the second house. It could be show ways you may make money. It might be some latent talents and abilities. I have Gemini on the cusp of my second house. It shows there may be an ability to make money in a wide divergence of things through versatility or something with the hands, a dexterity, which could be actually auto or refrigeration mechanics. Sadly, I can't really do much right now. I can't do a whole lot right now because, as many of you may know, I've said in a number of videos, I have very extensive and irrevocable nerve damage to my hands and arms, and that could be courtesy to some degree of my Gemini moon and Uranus conjunct the sixth house cusp. But anyway, the thing about this is, though, in me having the Gemini on the second house cusp, maybe it gives me a talent for mimicry, might be a latent ability or a talent for as far as mimicry goes, and perhaps communication and being diversified might play a strong role in my self-worth or self-esteem. Somebody that has the zodiac sign Cancer on the second house cusp is another example. Might have home and family matters might play a role in how they feel about themselves. It could be just maybe making their own family or what have you. Might play a role in how they feel, figure prominently in how one feels about oneself. Now, another thing too is it's also important to see if there's any planets that, if the house inhabits any planets. If you have any planets in that house, in the second house, of course, that can flavor the energy of that second house. Now with me, I have Mercury and the Sun in the zodiac sign Cancer in my second house. My Sun in Cancer actually conjuncts my third house cusp from the second, so it could take a little energy as far, it could have some second house and third house meaning as far as the Sun being in the second house. And also, I mean, the fact that it's conjunct the third could really have a description like having it in the third house as well. But the thing about it is, like with me, as far as having these planets in the second house, Mercury in Cancer can have a lot of dedicated, devoted thinking into making money, into one's values and amassing or accumulating possessions. That could be also have a lot of introverted communications, which I might value. The thing about it is, though, with Mercury in Cancer can become somewhat despondent over their own dilemmas and also issues of the world, and that could play maybe some role in how maybe I feel about myself. And you wonder, well, how can that actually be? How can that manifest it? Well, the thing is, the fact is, maybe I feel like there was, I feel like I wish I could do more in terms of my own issues and also the issues of the world, and it might be playing a role in how I feel about myself, because the second house is about our self-esteem or self-worth, how we feel about themselves. And Mercury in Cancer can at times become somewhat disconsolate about their own issues, and also perhaps even issues of the world. The fact I have the Sun in Cancer in the second house could show a strong focus and drive, even perhaps toward matters of a financial nature, accumulating resources, doing it with a lot of Cancerian like tenacity, dedication, and devotion. Another example is if somebody, let's say somebody has Jupiter in Aquarius in their second house, that could bring some luck and fortune toward you innovating as a way to make money, making money perhaps through ingenuity and through could be something Aquarius related. It could be luck through aeronautics, or could be very fortuitous for aeronautics, or something with rocket science or computers, electronics, and generating income in that manner. Now, it's also important to look at the aspects that are made. If there's any aspects that are made, say to perhaps I would say, well, not perhaps, I would say the second house cusp, or planets that are in the second house might flavor that energy of that house. And if you have like with me, I have again, I have Mercury in my second house of my natal chart, Mercury in Cancer in the second house of my natal chart. I have Uranus making a square aspect to it. And as I've stated in this video and previous videos, I have very extensive nerve damage. What's interesting is that having Mercury in the second house could have some motivation where the mind could really be dedicated, and especially in Cancer perhaps, or dedicating, devoted toward making money. But the thing is, because Cancer is about dedicating, devoted, and very tenacious energy, but the fact that Uranus is squaring it, that could show where perhaps it might be friendships that might maybe conflicted with that, maybe in some way, shape, or form. But also, given that Uranus making that square to Mercury, I see that as something that could have been an indicator of getting that nerve damage to my hands, to my arms, because Mercury can be associated with the hands and the arms, and you're talking about Uranus can be associated with nerve damage. So that is where there may have been a conflict in as far as my situation goes, where I couldn't really have been as dedicated and devoted toward making money because of the physical limitation and restriction, in which that Uranus squaring that Mercury, I think, figured prominently in that. Now, also, another thing to look at is look at where the ruler of the second house falls. As far what house does the ruler of the second house fall in your natal chart? Interestingly enough, mine actually falls in the second, which could indicate very good financial acumen and having a good understanding of money. But it could also manifest in having where where money can play a role in my values, or using latent talents could be something that I strongly may value, or putting value in terms of really in terms of having some kind of self-esteem and self-worth, and how I feel about myself. Those are some ways that could manifest and pan out, how that can work. Now, if somebody had, let's say as another example, somebody had the ruler of the second house in the sixth house. It could be somebody that might make money through some kind of health profession, or something that would be sixth house related, something connected with diet or nutrition, or it would be something that they would very strongly emphasize in the daily routine. It just depends. A lot of it, see wherever the ruler of the second house falls, and show where you bring that energy to. If you have the ruler of the second house posited in your fourth house, you might bring your values into your home life, into your family, to people that you are close to home with. So anyway, also transits to the second house can be significant, as well as they can manifest in certain events and experiences, often very spontaneous, that are associated with that house. Let's say, for example, somebody has transit Neptune hitting their second house. This could be that can manifest in a multitude of ways. This could be about the dissolving or dissipation of one's income, or self-worth, or self-esteem, or making money through something Neptune related, such as photography, dancing, poetry, chemistry, anesthesiology. It could be that you could also be victim of some financial fraud. This could also be, even if let's say it makes transit Neptune made an adverse aspect to your second house cusp. It could also, could be an indicator of being somewhat confused of how you're going to generate income, and having to really scrutinize at the fine details of things of a financial matter. So Another thing too to look at, it's also important to look at progressions that involve the second house as well, because those could that could be important and significant as well. It could show where you're at a present time as far as your monetary situation goes. It's not going to eradicate the energy of your natal placement, but it could play a role in terms of blending in a little bit what you might be doing financially at that particular point in time. I mean, let's say if you have Capricorn on your second house cusp in your natal chart, you could be somewhat conservative regarding financial matters. But let's say it progresses into Aquarius, that could be where you might be a little bit, at that time, you might be a little bit more progressive and a little bit willing, to maybe to be a little bit more innovative and not really restricting yourself quite as much on a monetary level. It might be more selfless in terms of your possessions and your resources, in terms of maybe being more restricting as far as the natal placement goes, but it won't eradicate that natal placement energy, and you're still going to exhibit a lot of that energy natally, but you're going to have a little bit from the progressed chart as well. So those are some ways that this could manifest and pan out. So I mean, and let's say you have Saturn in the second house in your progress chart, that could be an indicator of some financial restriction, or maybe despondency is playing a role in your self-worth, or the father maybe playing a role in maybe matters with buying and selling and generating money, and also how you feel about yourself, your self-worth and self-esteem. Anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.